I'm Alan Spears with Occupy Democrats, and if you're anything like me, you enjoy a good occasional celebrity roast. And in a clip I'm about to show you, that is exactly what the late-night host and comedian Jimmy Kimmel did to Donald Trump following his Time magazine interview. In his opening monologue, Kimmel goes over the various answers and responses to what Donald Trump told Time about what his second-term presidency would look like. And as we're about to see, it's not going to be good. But with a comedy and late-night host legend like Kimmel on our side, I'm sure that we can all come together and successfully ensure that Donald Trump does not see the White House a second time. Take a look and see what the late-night host had to say.
I tell you, Trump says, all true, what I'm about to inform you. He says he would carry out a deportation operation to remove more than 11 million people from the country. He says he would use the military to build migrant detention camps. He would let red states monitor women's pregnancies and prosecute those who violate abortion bans. He would, at his personal discretion, withhold funds appropriated by Congress. He would fire any U.S. attorney who wouldn't carry out his order to prosecute. He's weighing pardons for everyone who attacked the Capitol January 6th. He said he might not come to the aid of an ally in Europe or Asia if he felt that country wasn't paying enough. He would gut the civil service. He would close the White House Pandemic Preparedness Office and staff his administration only with those who believe the election was stolen from him. And when they asked about dictatorship, he said, I think a lot of people like it. And he's on the cover of Time magazine. He should be on the cover of Doing Time magazine.
You know, I think there has never once in our history as a civilization been an example of an authoritarian figure rising to power and it ever ending well. If you will indulge me for a moment as I briefly try to oversimplify a very complex issue, I believe that there is this belief in Donald Trump's supporters and his base that if he could just assume complete and total control, complete and total power, that all of their problems could be fixed. I think for a lot of his base and a lot of his supporters, they feel that the system has failed them, if not outright turned against them. Now, I will say there is, of course, ample evidence and legislation currently enacted that would indicate that these people are not in any way being repressed or having their liberties withdrawn from them or that they're being eliminated in any capacity. And if we could just briefly put ourselves in the Trump supporters' shoes, I think you would see that Donald Trump has managed to lie to them and convince them that their way of living, that their values is under attack or being threatened or being taken away from them. And I think this is the crux and the most insidious and dangerous part of Donald Trump. He has managed to convince these people that they are in danger, that their way of life is somehow being taken away from them or threatened, or that the left is coming for them and that they hate them, and that's just simply not the case. It's so easy to fall into the trap of hating the enemy or seeing it as us versus them. But I think in order to really come forward and out of this hole that Donald Trump has put us into, we're going to have to take a step back, be a little more cognizant of the differences and realize that a lot of these people have just been lied to so extensively, they don't know what the truth is anymore. And this is basically the eye of the storm of our issues. This is nothing new, and this is something you're very likely well aware of, but you have in our country two parties with two different solutions on how to best deal with the problems and the ailments our country is facing, and these two solutions are almost completely incompatible. And so you have people like Donald Trump and many others. He's certainly not the only one in this sort of behavior. But they come in and they stoke the fires of hatred and resentment for the other side. And it just inevitably leads to turmoil. And then you have people like Donald Trump saying that they're the only ones that can bring law and order, that they're the only ones that know what's right, that they're the only ones that can lead our country out of this turmoil that they helped create. And what's scary is this is exactly what's happening in our country right now. And this is exactly the sort of stuff we've seen all throughout history, all throughout the 20th century, of these authoritarian figures using cultural issues, using immigration, using all of these different issues that our society faces as leverage, as ammunition to ascend to power and assume total control. And when that happens, it never ends well. And look, there are so many reasons as to why we should all despise Donald Trump and his cabinet and his enablers and all of the politicians that support him blindly and go along with the crap that he constantly spews. And while this certainly isn't true for 100% of his base, I think there are a decent percentage of people there that do support Donald Trump that are doing so because they've been taken in by his lies, and they are genuinely trying to do what's best for their family and what they think is best for their country. And that is what is so incredibly insidious and dangerous about Donald Trump. He has learned how to hijack these people's way of thinking, these people's way of living, their beliefs, and used it as a weapon against us and against them. He has convinced these people that he actually cares for them, and the truth of the matter is he doesn't. He is a man that if he steps inside the White House once more, he's not going to leave again. Once he's in, he will absolutely rip up and destroy all of the founding principles and documents of our country, and it is something we will likely never recover from. Again, I ask you to please just consider this, please. Has there ever, in our history, been an example of one person, one individual, ascending to complete and total control politically over the armed forces, demonized groups like immigrants or certain religious beliefs, stripped the rights of its citizens, and that ever resulted in anything good or prosperous long-term for that country? Don't let this man be the beginning of the end for our great country and for our home.